So thank you very much. Here's a European and global potato market perspective from me, Cedric Porter. I'm the editor of World Potato Markets. I know some of you know and support World Potato Markets. Thank you very much for that. But basically, it's essentially weekly information, potato trade, production and pricing for the global potato industry and read across the world. Now, I always like to start with just a greeting from Austin in Birmingham in England. This one is, and this is named after Britain's version of Henry Ford, chap named Herbert Austin. So hi from Austin in England to Austin in Texas. If I had to do just one slide on European potatoes this year, I think this would be the one. So we had a drought in 2022, very severe drought and record temperatures. There were still hot temperatures in 2023, but the biggest thing was very wet conditions and actually cold conditions at the beginning of the season, and then right at the end of the season when people were trying to harvest, very wet harvesting there in the north of Europe. It wasn't across Europe. There was actually some drought and very high temperatures in Eastern Europe and also in Southern Europe in places like Spain. So what has that done in terms of production? This is the four main EU, northern EU production countries. We're talking about Germany, France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. And there's still potatoes in the ground, so this figure could change as well. Again, these are all in metric measurements here, but basically you're talking about a similar sort of size of harvest there in as 2022, which is actually going to make a sort of tight market as well. We're already seeing that in terms of this is in terms of production. The previous one there was in terms of area and yields. So yeah, we're going to have one of the smallest harvests we've had for quite a long time, probably similar to 2022. Again, real sort of tightness of the market there. If we pop over to Poland in Eastern Europe, they've had probably the smallest potato harvest they've ever had at just over 5.2 million tons, something like that. So that is a very small harvest from their point of view. And again, that's pushed up some prices there. We're seeing, if we're in the UK, I'm based in the UK, and we've seen the smallest planted area ever, and difficult conditions. So I think it's more or less inevitable that there's the smallest UK potato crop ever, going from around about 6.7 million tons or nearly 8 million tons back in the 1990s, even into 2017. We still had about 6.5 million tons back in 2017, and now really sort of struggling to get much more than the 4 million ton mark, so leaving a deficit of potatoes there. This has impacted on prices. We've seen prices go up. They actually have stabilized a bit in the last few weeks. This is recording this just before Christmas. And what's happened there is that the potatoes that are coming off the ground, these are of spot market free buy prices. Potatoes coming off the ground and are being used straight away, but of course they're sort of low quality and they need a lot of washing and whatever. So their value is they've been devalued. So we are expecting to see prices go up quite sort of rapidly after into the new year and beyond. As you go through to the end of the season in around about June, July time. So we're expecting to see much higher prices on the ground there. A lot of prices are contracted, and actually the contract prices for this year are they're much higher, and they're about the highest they've ever been this year. And it looks like in 2024 we'll probably see some really high contract prices again. Because there's the need for those potatoes amongst processors and buyers, so they'll have to pay top dollar for those potatoes. If we look at where we've seen in processing terms, we haven't seen a drop off in processing yet. These are figures from Belgium there on the left, and then Netherlands, Dutch processing figures on the right. And you can see that the Belgian figures are actually showing the largest processing of potatoes of this season so far. We're talking the sort of 2023 season from about August and July there. So you can see that there's sort of record figures there, and the Dutch figures there on the right also quite strong figures there. So we haven't seen it yet, but we'll probably see it later in the season. There'll be a drop off in processing. Over the last year, we've seen a rapid and very strong and rapid, well, over the last 2 years, an enormous increase in potato product prices. These are export prices, and these are in euros a ton. And we saw that throughout the recession, last recession, 2008 and 10. And we've seen that again this year when prices, even though they're high price, they're still seen as good value by a lot of people and in great demand. So I think we've seen that that price tailing off a bit or leveling off a bit recently. But I think just given the lack of supply of European potatoes, we'll probably see that price staying at that level well into 2024 and perhaps even beyond. This has started to impact on demand. I suppose the lack of potatoes and also the lack of or the high prices that started to impact on demand. And there you see the main exporters from the EU: Belgium, Netherlands, France, Germany, and Poland. These individual columns here every month on a 12-month basis, and you're starting to see a decline, but from record levels. And you can see that enormous increase in exports from 2021, the bottom of the pandemic time, if you like. That's really recovered to beyond pre-pandemic levels, quite significantly beyond pre-pandemic levels, but that demand is leveling off now. US has been a big buyer of European fries in the last season, and really, I suppose, because of the lack of supply in the US, that's really impacted there. So you can see record imports of more than nearly 4.5 million hundredweight in this sort of season so far, which would be up until about October. I think those figures are until October. So I think we'll probably see, because of your in the US, much more potatoes around and much more with the processing capacity as well. We'll probably see a decrease in that as the price of European fries goes up and the supply of US fries also goes up. So let's look at what's happening there in Europe in terms of new capacity. A new plant is being opened any day, the Clairvaux plant in Dunkirk, which is only about 20 miles from the French border. Sorry, from the Belgian border. So it's a Belgian company called Clairvaux who are opening that. The plant is in France, but as I say, only about sort of 20 miles into France. And also plans for Agristo, another Belgian company, and that's plans for a new plant in 2027. That's an old sugar plant, and that will also be in France. And there are even rumours of a Belgian plant in the US at some point. So Belgian companies have grown phenomenally in terms of their production, but that is they're now looking outside Belgium to process potatoes. We've really seen peak potato in Belgium and particularly in the Netherlands, where new environmental laws in both of those countries make it more difficult to grow potatoes. There's a new rule in the Netherlands on sandy soil that you have to have harvested your potatoes by the 1st of October, which is quite difficult, especially in a very wet year like we've had this year. And that's really impacting. And some of the EU rules on the new farm policy rules from farm to fork policies in the EU as well, also having a big impact on on production across the EU. So in some ways, we have sort of reached peak potato, and any extra production is going to take place outside Belgium and the Netherlands. So France, there is capacity, or there is a potential there for places like the UK, Germany, and Poland, whose potato areas have gone down over the last 20 years. There is potential to perhaps bring some more production back into production there with some new plants, but there's no real sort of firm plans for that yet. So it's been another year of wild weather and unforeseen events, and then these have been having their impact for the last sort of 6 seasons. So if you go back to 2018, there was a drought. 2019, it was very wet at the end of the season as well, so it was a very difficult harvesting season then. And of course, in 2020, 2021, coronavirus, the COVID pandemic, really hit demand across the world. So the weather was okay, the production was okay in those years. And then 2022, we had a drought then. Across many bits of the EU, and of course there was the Russia's invasion of the Ukraine as well, which increased costs enormously. Some of those costs have come down in 23 and 24, but you're now seeing perhaps an increase in oil prices as more turmoil and unrest in the Middle East impacting on that. So 2023, I put a rain cloud and a sun there. So there was in the sort of key northern areas, there was a lot of rain, particularly at harvesting time. But there was still also, there was drought and very, very hot conditions in Eastern Europe, including Poland, and very much so in Portugal and Spain. And a lot of the reservoirs in Spain are still very dry, and people moving away from potatoes because of the need for water there. So these are sort of long-term impacts that really the potato industry has to assess and to deal with. If we just looked at some of the French potato sales there, they are down, but not disastrously so. And so these figures here, we're sort of showing a little decline. This is season so far from August, a little decline in consumption there, but not sort of disastrously slow. I think it's going to be inevitable that there will be less demand because the prices are that much higher for fresh potatoes across Europe. They perhaps seen more of an increase because they're more sold on the spot market than the contract market. They've seen more of an increase than others. If we just sort of look globally at imports of frozen potato products, this is some work I've been doing with Potatoes USA, and we see it's a very strong market. So this is in volume terms. So if you look in total terms, over the last 10 years, the market's grown by more than 5%, so 60%, 5% a year, so 60% over that time. And this is in volume terms. In value terms, it's increased by a lot more than that as well. I mean, in value terms, it's gone up almost sort of 50% in the last year. So it's still a very, very attractive market to be in. And there is sort of concern about who's supplying that market. We've had these problems in both North America and Europe over the last few years. You are seeing more supply from other players like Turkey, China, and in India as well. So there is an increase in supply from different players. So the world still loves potatoes, and I always like to put this one up. This is what's not to love about potato, and this is Portugal's Miss Tata, who promotes potatoes in Portugal, and all those sort of reasons that we love them, but also from that environmental point of view as well, is really important. And I just wanted to finish with one slide. Showing that everyone loves potatoes. So here we go.
An elephant ransacked a van in Sri Lanka in search of a snack, but how the hungry beast got close enough to steal some chips from a Perth family on vacation, that's the wildest part. Hey, that driver is remaining remarkably calm. I would have had the high-pitched squeal going on and everything. The family escaped unharmed. The driver was able to speed off. The van will need a window and a door or two replaced after they were punctured by the hungry herbivore during that event. Story they'll be able to tell for the ages. Yep.
So there we go. Everyone, even our trunked friends, love potatoes. Chips in that terms. That's Australians talking about chips, and they're the same as the Brits. So chips of rice. So many thanks for your time and attention, and I look forward to catching up with you either in person at the expo or at some point in 2024. Many thanks.